Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. And today we are going to be covering anhedonia in maintenance, why it happens, how to deal with it, the whole shebang. So, first and foremost, I have to say that this is not something that everybody will go through. It is really dependent upon how long you've been doing this, if you had any nutrient deficiencies within downsizing, and if you have a toxic ritualistic past, which will be referred to as the TR, which the toxic ritualistic is basically EFA by the letter D, particularly focused upon the one where you're doing too much. That's what we're focused mostly on this channel. But yeah, it's still, in some cases, it will apply to other ones too. And typically when you have that going on, the one where you're doing too much, you do have to downsize to get to health and like to get to a healthy place. And it's also a part of recovery. So once you get to maintenance, anhedonia is something that can happen. In particular to that group of people, although I do think it can happen on a lesser level psychologically to a lot of people, especially as they're finishing a vanity weight era and they're kind of experiencing a little bit of a purposelessness. But we are going to be focusing mostly on the physical side of it, so like a more severe toxic ritualistic recovery aspect. But it could apply to other people as well, just probably to a lesser extent. Okay, so let's talk about it. What is anhedonia? Anhedonia is a lack of pleasure and numbness. In mood disorders, it has to do with the reduction of dopamine signaling. So a lot of times when you say anhedonia, people see it as depression. It's not exactly depression. It is a common symptom of depression, though. So within depression, anhedonia is a common symptom, but anhedonia is not depression. Anhedonia is basically, it is a lack of motivation. It is a lack of care, or basically being very like, nothing matters. Nothing's fun. So it's kind of like you don't experience pleasure from activities you used to, or you have a hard time focusing. It's that kind of thing. But people tend to project an emotional quality onto it. You can feel it feels bizarre. It's not a good feeling. It's not comfortable, but it's not always depression. Because sometimes you can get mad too, because you're bored and stuff like that. It's very, very boring. It's extremely understimulating when it comes to a feeling. So if you've never experienced it, it's essentially like the feeling is like, I don't care about anything. Okay. All right. The emotional quality of it is numbness, fatigue, and lacking motivation. So like for me in particular, I had a lot of times where I struggled with getting up in the morning because I don't have like a set schedule. So I would lay in bed for a long time staring at the ceiling, or, not really getting up. And it was challenging, or it becomes challenging it can be challenging to motivate yourself to go take a shower, something like that. It doesn't mean that I didn't shower or whatever. It's just I would sit on the couch and know that I have to shower, and I wouldn't want to for like almost 2 hours. Like I would delay it. So it is, again, it can happen within ADHD, but again, it's not the same thing as ADHD. It's a symptom of it. So yeah, a lot of people project things onto it. And I'm trying to just be like, no. It's this specific thing that happens in maintenance, basically. So Yeah. When you have a sustained deficit over a long haul downsizing journey, your brain adjusts to less serotonin due to reduced intake of all nutrients. So that will happen, especially when you're getting into vanity downsizing. You're likely going to have some issues at some point, especially if you're going for a long period of time. Where people tend to start to have issues is after 12 weeks. So if you go 12 weeks straight, you might have a little bit of something if you go longer than that. So obviously, for me, it was a very long journey. It went on for years prior. That's why it was so severe for me. Like this anhedonia, it was very strong. But like I said, I do think it can affect people to a lesser extent, or there can be elements of it. And it is a huge barrier to maintenance that we have to talk about. Okay. It is why your appetite is higher after a cut, especially when you are below class 1 obesity and within vanity weight loss. So basically, when you are in that overweight or not even overweight stage, your brain will start to have less serotonin because it wants to encourage you to eat more. And that's what a lot of people say, where they're just like, oh my gosh, the body resists all forms of downsizing and yada, yada, yada. Okay, it's not really about that. It's due to you're not getting as much of the nutrition. So sometimes dopamine signaling is less. So you'll have like less nutrition, less building blocks. Same thing with serotonin. You'll have less building blocks. But it's also, there is a mechanism in the brain where serotonin is used for appetite regulation. So basically, when you're in that downsizing journey and you're no longer overweight or you're no longer obese, your brain starts to adjust it down because your brain kind of perceives that as like, okay, we need to start providing some pressures towards intaking more down the line. So it is a way that your brain is trying to kind of slow the process or kind of prepare your appetite to be heightened when there is food around. So I wouldn't say this is survival mode. It's more like long term than that. A lot of people think of survival mode as like something that happens overnight within an instant. It's not like that. Like I said, it's like weeks and weeks. So typically I would say for your average person after 12 weeks within downsizing, underneath obesity and especially in vanity. So if you're doing like a vanity journey and you're 12 weeks in, you're probably having some reduced serotonin going on. Even before that, you probably are, but you might have to adjust and do a reverse diet, in my opinion, in order to maintain that loss when you are getting out of it. So, anyways, let's continue. In most people, this is slight, perhaps creating a bit of deep thinking in a vanity I don't know why I wrote that way, in a vanity weight era, as the mind experiences this feeling as a spiritual fast. Ignore my typos. So basically, when your serotonin goes down, you have that kind of, you have like increased dopamine signaling. So that's where you have like the mind open up. You can have a lot of like deep realizations. These can be deeply like psychological. I've noticed it a lot online. It turns into like a lot of political discussion within the fitness space, or it turns into philosophy, this kind of stuff. It can also be very religious. A lot of religious practices do encourage fasting for spirituality. That's the mechanism. That's how it happens. Okay. So when you return to maintenance, your serotonin levels go back to normal. And basically after that, you no longer, like the mind kind of closes back up. I don't know how else to say it, but you kind of go back to the ground basically. And once the serotonin has normalized, then your appetite also normalizes. So your body perceives that you are back at maintenance. So your body starts to put on the brakes on the appetite, basically, which is the serotonin going back up. So that's why you can maintain. That's why some people do because your body is just like, okay, period. We're healthy now. Like, we got the nutrition in, we're fine. And you adjust. So basically, for a lot of people, that's all it is. So maybe they have a few days of being a little bit bored, or they're like, I don't want to talk about politics anymore. They kind of go back to that. It's like, I don't want to, you just kind of go back to reality. That's a typical response for people. Okay. But here's where we get into those of us that have had these issues. If you have a history of the TR or have gone through long haul weight loss, the dopamine and serotonin systems in your brain may be damaged or altered. So particularly within the TR, that I do believe, and I think this is pretty evident, that there is damage to the system. When you're in a long haul weight loss journey, there is an alteration as the body adapts, in part because you have so much weight to lose. So you can kind of just live that way at times for years. And within the TR, there's a lot of cycles in that. And that also creates these dopamine and serotonin issues in the brain. It's part of what keeps it going. And it's also why a lot of people experience it or feel that it is an addiction, because there is a change to the brain due to the behaviors, but it is behavioral. So it has to do with the obsession and the behaviors. You basically condition your serotonin and dopamine system to respond, especially to cycles of consumption and reductiveness. Okay? So, when you have that going on, these swings of dopamine and serotonin can be quite drastic. In the case of the TR, it will be especially sensitive, as the years of obsession creates very strong neural connections to eating and reduction. Your brain will essentially be very sensitive to the dopamine and serotonin balance, specifically involved with eating, due to training it to be, essentially. So always remember, it is the obsession and the repetition and the cycles of behaviors that causes that. So if you stay out of it, it does weaken, the brain does heal. However, a lot of people are in it for many years, and that's what I'm talking about. That was me. And so when you're in it for many years, you have to stay out of the cycle, and you have to stay out of that for years for the brain to recover. And it can be challenging to normalize your weight, because these systems can be so sensitive in a person that has developed the toxic ritualistic, which is why a lot of people will say, like, I can't downsize because I had, quote unquote, the toxic ritualistic. They still do have it, but that's why they struggle, because it is challenging. It's the same thing within the reductive side. It's challenging to normalize the weight and to upsize. It's similar. And a lot of that has to do with certain brain changes that a person has basically caused in themselves due to obsessing over it for years. It's like it has to do, again, with the repetition. It's the looking in the mirror for years. It's the hopping around different ways of being reductive, so different diets and that kind of stuff. It's the cycles of doing too much too fast, right? All that stuff, and you do it over and over and over again, and it does condition the brain to have like a hyper fixation on this aspect, on these behaviors, and on this stuff, which again, it ties into eating. So again, I have to be clear about this. It's not so severe that it's like impossible, or again, it's not as strong as an actual addiction. What it is, though, is it is subconscious. So you have to think about, like, if you're just on autopilot, you're gonna want to go back to something like that. So you have to say no. But it's more like a subconscious. It's like Pennywise. It's like the clown is speaking to you, but it's subconscious. That's typically how it is. So it's kind of like a lot of people, when they go into maintenance, they just won't think about what they're doing. And then they end up regaining. But it's because all of this is going on. So they're just like in autopilot and they're just like, oh my gosh, I just put back on 10 pounds. I don't know what happened. You see? Because they're not thinking about it. And a lot of times there's like dieting fatigue or whatever, and they just don't want to think about it anymore. But when your brain is this way, it's like you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so bored. Because you have to think it's not always this. That's kind of almost what makes it more insidious, is that it's not that same feeling of an actual like physical addiction. Like you're not having an actual withdrawal. It's kind of like you're sitting and you're just you're on the couch and you're just like, you perceive this boredom and you're just like, this show is kind of boring, or like, I'm gonna get up and get something to eat. And you just don't think about it. That's typically how it would show up. And the thing is, when you don't do that, because you're staying in maintenance and you're tracking, then you're like, oh my God, I'm so fucking bored. What the actual fuck is going on with me? And that's what happens. And then people are like, oh my gosh. Then they say, I'm so depressed. I'm so that. Then they start, because you feel the anhedonia, then you start to try to think of reasons why you're feeling it. And you try to fill in those gaps. And then people, again, it's a whole thing. It's a lot. But people will project issues into it. So they'll be like, I must be depressed. I must be this. I must be that. And then they don't actually deal with the issue. And then they're just like, oh my gosh, my mental health, I have to eat more. And then they gain, basically. So it can turn into that too. But you have to be intentional. And I'm just trying to tell you because I want you to succeed. And I want you to know that that's what it is. It's just, basically, it is boredom. It is low dough. That's basically what it is. Okay? So, all right, let's continue. Your anhedonia will also be physical, meaning no matter what you do, you will be bored, regardless of how busy you are. So this is a big thing too. You might tell people that you're bored. They're going to tell you, just get a hobby, go out more, do something. That is good advice if it's not physical boredom. So this will be a physical, chemical boredom. So no matter what you do, you will be bored. The only thing that you will want to do is to get back into the TR, basically, or to start dieting again, or to start like some other process, or to just eat and eat and eat, basically, to try to eat enough to get the dopamine up enough to where you don't feel that way. And you're specifically sensitive to that because of all that. So that's where you'll see people where it's like they don't want to leave diet culture, or they don't want to stop, but it's because without it, they're so bored. It's a boredom issue. That's what happens. Which again, anhedonia is also experienced in addiction as well. But like I told you, this doesn't feel as strong, so people don't feel threatened by it a lot of the time. They just fail. And then they're like, oh my gosh, why couldn't I do that? Because usually by this point, if you came from like a very big size, or you were like super into the, the one where you're doing too much, you've massively recovered to reach this stage. So it's not that deep. It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm so bored. I feel like I'm dying of boredom, basically. That's what it feels like. And it can be kind of scary because it's like, you're just like, oh my God, am I ever going to feel normal again? That's like the biggest thing. Okay, so we'll get into it. All right. But it is physical. So I need to reiterate that. This is physical. So you will feel bored no matter what, unless if you get out of maintenance. basically. And that's why there's an incentive to not be in it. Okay. Because of that, a person may develop anhedonia maintenance as their serotonin normalizes. The brain perceives the increase in serotonin and you feel it as a reduction in dopamine. So dopamine and serotonin, they are opposed in the brain. So it's not so much that the dopamine is low or the serotonin is high or this or that or the other. It's not really that. What it is that your serotonin was down here while you were on the cut, and then it goes up to here. So it's becoming normal. When that's happening, then you feel like the dopamine went down, but it didn't go down. It's just that your brain has to adjust to the serotonin going up. So it's fine. It's similar to adjusting to like an SSRI or something. It takes probably that 8 weeks or whatever. It's not like permanent or anything. Again, serotonin is not bad. Serotonin is actually like, that is your maintenance, you know, because that is what leads to appetite regulation in the brain. So it's very important. So you have to like let your brain adjust and even be grateful for it, because as your brain adjusts to the serotonin, then your appetite normalizes and then maintenance becomes easy. Okay? So again, you want it to be normal. Okay. All right. So this leads to a desire for highly palatable dopamine-releasing foods, which will also increase serotonin as you eat them, creating a cycle. So this is also what happens with people within this issue is they'll be like, I'm so bored. Oh my gosh, I'm out of the diet now. I want to have like this super like stimulating food. So it's like, I want like tons of candy, or I want tons of this, or pizza or ice cream or whatever. I want this stuff, or I want cake, and you know, whatever. You want like a bunch of stuff that you maybe haven't had. You might be experiencing like emotional whiplash a little bit, especially if you're on something strict, especially within vanity, weight loss. So it's kind of like you have to like have that self-control too. Because remember, it's not this deep and dark thing. It's really not. But people project that it is. It's not. It isn't. I promise it's not. It's very like autopilot. It's very like, I don't care. That's how it feels. Okay? So it's like, oh, you'll want to have those dopamine releasing foods and those dopaminergic foods. But if you eat more, then your serotonin goes up higher. So then it can create a cycle. So over a long period of time, you could put on a decent amount. Like you could upsize quite a bit. Because, and it might not even be like a TR moment. It's just, you're just a flop, basically. You're like flopping. And your brain is in this kind of cycle. Now, eventually that will end. So eventually your brain will adjust to serotonin. The appetite will come back down. But you could have put on a lot of LBs. I'm trying to like be kind of careful how I talk about it. But you could put on a lot of LBs during that process if you're just not strategic at all. And that's what we're trying to prevent. Like you're not going to go all the way back up and all that BS. You'd only do all that if you went into the TR hardcore, which no, that's just a no. And that's not what I'm talking about. This is being outside of it. If you were still in it, you wouldn't experience anhedonia because you're still in it. You'd be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm terrified. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. I've never been able to maintain. I can't do this. Like you're already like, that's not boring. You see how that isn't boring? I'm talking about the person who's out of it. When you're out of it, it's like, oh my God, I'm bored. Because you don't have any of that. You're just like, you're like that. And then it's like, oh, do I have to get up today? Like I had a hard time because like I didn't even care about money. Like I was like, I need to make my rent, but I don't even care. So it's like I literally had to like force myself to have the discipline in December to go to work, because it's like I literally didn't care. Like I had no fear, nothing, like no fear of not being able to make my rent or anything, which is not good. But I'm just saying that's what it feels like, okay? It's that kind of thing. All right. That's what I'm talking about specifically. Okay. So within that cycle, regain is very possible, especially right after a cut when your appetite is high. Food noise also runs rampant, and it's understandable why. It's understandably so. You're very bored. Your appetite's higher because you've just finished a cut. You're experiencing that boredom. You know, it's chemical boredom, and it's the only thing that's going to take that feeling away because of the way you've trained your brain. So it is very tempting to just not care. And I'm telling you, you should. Okay? This can be compounded by these factors. 1, reduced stimulation in the mirror. You may look average. That's what I experienced. I was just super average. There may be little to no emotional reaction to seeing yourself in the mirror, which can be very bizarre for a person who has dealt with the TR. So this can be so alien to you. You literally, like, I felt like a ghost. Or like, I'm looking in the mirror and I see nothing. Or it's like, there's nobody even in the mirror to me, because how much the mirror used to mean to me and how emotional the mirror used to make me, to not have any reaction, it was very bizarre to me, because you just look average. And I think anybody will go through that phase, at least, you know, you're going to have an average phase, but it's like you just look average. So when you're average, you don't feel anything. You don't feel like you look great. You don't feel like you look bad. It's kind of like a forced body neutrality, because your body is fucking neutral. It's average. So it's like, oh, okay. That's bizarre, especially if it has like tormented you for years to do that, to just be like, oh. Or not even that. It's just like you stare in the mirror and you're like this, because you just don't feel anything. It's bizarre. And it does make it worse. Boredom caused by a locked-in lifestyle, especially within vanity weight loss. A person usually makes social sacrifices or is so focused on the goal that they have been less focused on stimulating activities like socialization, hobbies, etc. So a lot of times when you're in a vanity era, you are locking in, you're very focused, and you're also tired a lot of the time. So you have to rest more, and you don't have time to do your hobbies, or you say no to more things. So you're locked in, and that can make anhedonia worse because you've been that way for a while. So people don't always think to switch it, because you're so used to like resting and conserving energy that you'll kind of continue to do that even in maintenance, and that can make anhedonia worse. Okay? Lack of purpose due to a goal being achieved. For some people, the need to downsize could be a long, arduous process due to health reasons, or to a lesser extent, the desire to downsize for vanity reasons could have taken up all their extra time. Either way, an emptiness is left behind. So you have a void. And that void of a task, or that void of a process, or that void in your routine, it makes the anhedonia worse. Absolutely. Okay? Here's another one. No longer needing certain things after downsizing. Something like caffeine or certain step counts, for example, are less necessary outside of a deficit and may need to be reduced. This can lead to a reduction of dopamine and exacerbate any anhedonia you are experiencing. So anything that's going to lower the dopamine, it's going to make it worse. But sometimes you have to, because there's certain things you do in a deficit that you don't need to do when you're in maintenance. So it's kind of like, let's say you got super hyper political in your vanity weight era, and you're just like constantly fighting with everybody online all the time. You're not going to, when you're in maintenance, like if that's not you typically, because you get dopamine from fighting online, So you might do that. If that's not you, then when you're in maintenance, it's going to start to be boring because you're not going to need it. So then you have to stop it because you're bored. And then that makes the anhedonia worse. Or like for me, I had to have a lot of sugar. And I needed to, the sugar was starting to make me feel, like it was too much, basically. Like I was like, ugh. So I'd have less, and then that's less dopamine. Or like a really common one is caffeine. So somebody who's, on a downsizing journey, they might be having like energy drinks or something to help them, or tons and tons and tons of diet soda. And that becomes no longer necessary. You don't feel like you need it, or it feels kind of like, ugh. And because you're no longer in that process, so then you have to adjust to less caffeine, which will reduce dopamine and make it a little worse. Okay. So I hope that helps to explain that one. Anhedonia in maintenance creates a huge incentive to self-sabotage. Let's talk about how to combat this prior to maintenance. So these are things you can do while you're in a vanity weight era or while you're in a mid-size era. I would really think about this during those two eras specifically because you need to start planning. So as I wrote for number 1, prepare for maintenance. Start thinking about future plans long before you finish downsizing. Depending on how focused you have been, this can take months to conceptualize. I would start thinking about it within a mid-size era of downsizing. So if you're on a long haul journey, you need to make plans for what you're going to do when you're done. And there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like you can focus on other aspects of vanity, like hair, makeup, or whatever, clothes. You can look at different hobbies you want to get into when you're done. You can look at, just starting something new after. Like you have to start conceptualizing early. A lot of people think like I can just get to maintenance and I'll just have it all figured out right at that moment. You're not going to. Especially if you go into this anhedonia state, it's going to be really hard to like conceptualize or like sit down and focus, which is another reason why I think people fail. So you want to plan this when you have not gotten to maintenance yet, basically. You want to have some kind of a goal. Give it like some weeks of planning. Like really be intentional about it. That will help you. 2, consider reverse dieting. The slow increase of calories over a 6 to 8 week period of time can help the brain adjust to the serotonin increases. So if you don't jump to maintenance, it can help you because it can be a little easier. You can kind of stagger it. And then that helps you adjust. And then as the weeks go by, then your brain adjusts to those levels you see, and then you can kind of stagger it. It makes it easier on a physical level to be in maintenance when you are done. Okay? So I would really suggest it, especially if you've been downsizing for a very long time. If you have a history with the TR, all this stuff, I would really suggest reverse dieting. It is challenging, but the challenge is kind of set to that period of time, and then the maintenance is easier. Okay? It forces you to view maintenance in a different way psychologically as you are forced to deal with the gray area of the process. This is really helpful for people who have dealt with the TR. Super, super helpful. You can also see how physical your anhedonia will be. It also gives you a taste. Okay, so if you go up by 100 calories and you feel crazy, or you're like, holy crap, like I got a migraine, or like my brain is totally changing now. It's like you have a migraine, you're like, whoa, you feel like super bored or like any of that. After that little bit of an increase, you're going to have one hell of a anhedonia moment. So it helps you prepare, and then you can be like, okay, this is going to be tough for me specifically, If it's nothing to you, then you're probably fine. You just do the process and then you're just done. But I'm here to help the people who do struggle. Okay? All right. Let's see. You can also see how physical your anhedonia will be and adjust your expectations for maintenance. If you feel the shifts very strongly, understand you will struggle at first in maintenance. Okay? 3, Become very comfortable with the feeling of boredom. So this is something you can start working on. I really worked on it from the mid-size era on, like especially around May of 2025. I started to adjust to boredom, and I was like, I need to get used to this because, yeah, you do. Become very comfortable with the feeling of boredom and lower your expectations for excitement post downsizing. So understand you're not just going to have an amazing, exciting life right after downsizing. An amazing, exciting life is something cultivated, and it's something that is worked on outside of a downsizing process. So it's not just going to happen for you. And again, a lot of times if you have a vanity weight era going on, you have to focus so much that you're not necessarily going to jump into this amazing life. Some people, yeah, if you're super extroverted, then you'll just be able to jump right in. But a lot of people, no, it's not going to be that way. It's going to feel kind of underwhelming. So I wrote here, do not put thinness on a pedestal. It will make it worse if you end up experiencing anhedonia, as you will be incredibly underwhelmed. Try to have moments of stillness and silence throughout these moments of downsizing, is what I mean. And separate boredom from the desire to eat. So work really hard on that. That is a psychological thing that you have to understand. That connection of I'm bored, therefore I must consume. That is not real. That is TR bullshit. It's the same thing with like grief doesn't make you upsize. The TR does. Same thing with boredom. Boredom doesn't make you upsize. The TR does, right? Those behaviors do. So you need to really focus on that and practice that stillness and acceptance of things being calm, which can be really tough. Okay. But you're going to succeed if you can do it. I do think that's partly why I succeeded. It's because I did that from the mid-era on. Okay. Start working on any nutrient deficiencies within downsizing and reverse dieting. The more nutritionally balanced you are, the easier it will be to maintain. Iron is especially important as it is involved with dopamine. So if you are anemic, take care of it. You need to supplement. But anything really, try to supplement, especially if you're in a vanity era. You probably need to supplement some stuff. It will help. It will make it easier. And if you're in a reverse dieting process, be extremely nutritionally intentional. Basically, really, really focus on it. Okay, and think about getting a nutrition every single day. And do the best you can within downsizing. You'll have less of an issue. Do the best you can within reverse dieting. You'll have less of an issue. And do the best you can within maintenance. Okay. Now let's talk about ways to help speed up recovery if you are experiencing anhedonia and maintenance. So these are things that have worked for me. I do think they would work in general too. But yeah, let's talk about it because I am better. So it took me about 2 months. December, basically around Thanksgiving is when it started until around now. So I guess a month and a half-ish, around there. That was my anhedonia moment. So I do feel like it's better. I'm not 100% non-anhedonia, but I am functional. I'm doing okay. I'm pretty fine now. And I'm sure it will just continue to get better, So it's livable, it's workable, it's fine. I'm bored now, but it's more psychological boredom. It's this is the time where I need to just get a hobby or whatever. It's I need to do more because I am bored now. But it's psychological boredom now rather than physical. So there's more of an incentive to actually do something about it. Okay, let's do this. So number 1, understand it is a temporary process. The brain is adjusting. Tell yourself every day if you have to. This is not your new normal. Do not believe that, okay? That is the biggest thing is people feel like I'm always going to feel this way. Time goes by so slow when you're feeling anhedonia in maintenance. It's not real. It will pass. It will end. It ended. That's why I made this video. It's ending. It has ended. Okay? You're going to be okay. I promise. Just be strong. People will try to tell you it is. That is not true. They are likely still within the TR, so they are lying. So there will be people that say that to you. Well, this is just how you're going to be now. That's not true. They only say that because they never lasted in maintenance. I have lasted. So I can tell you. That's bullshit. You just gotta be stable, hun. It'll be okay. 2, stay sober. You do not want to mess with your brain as it is adjusting. Excessive drinking will drag out the process and make it worse. So I try to keep everything stable. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not talking specifically about psych meds and stuff because those tend to be like a stable dose. That might be something you might want to revisit in maintenance or whatever, but that's for you, psychiatrists, etc., to figure out. What I'm talking about though is like, if you're going out and like having drinks every weekend or something, this is going to make it last longer because you're creating more issues with the serotonin and dopamine. So you want to try to stay stable and kind of still. You know, you don't want to be like doing that because it will prolong it. Also, like drinking, I'm targeting drinking specifically because it's so common, but drinking will also, it will make things like iron absorption not as effective, which will affect dopamine. You know, it affects a lot of stuff when you're drinking a lot. So I wouldn't suggest it during this process. It will likely make the anhedonia worse. Just stay sober, please. It'll happen, like you'll get through it faster. I got through this pretty fast. I was stone cold sober the whole time. Okay? 3, be strict with your intake. Keep the amount of food the same each day by tracking. So you want to track. You want to keep it pretty much the same. Okay? The stability of the amount will help your brain adjust rather than eating sporadically. That could prolong the anhedonia. So if you're like having days where you're having a lot more or days where you're having a lot less or you're not tracking, you're kind of going into it blind, that can also make it last longer because it's less stable. So you'll feel anhedonia. You know, my 1.5 months could be your 6 months. And if you combine it with drinking and all that, it could last like 8 months. You don't want that. I don't want that for you. You can still maintain though. You can. But I want you to get through this. So I'm like, let's get through this as fast as possible. Okay? You don't want to mess with the dopamine and serotonin. You don't want to mess with the amount that you're having. Keep it the same, because that will also affect it. Okay? 4, continue to focus on nutrition. So this is really important in maintenance. You didn't get to maintenance so you could just have a bunch of chimichangas. You're getting to maintenance so that you can restore. So think about it as a restoration process. So fill up your stores internally. Be strategic. Be strategic. I just had liver tonight. Be strategic, okay? Build up stores within maintenance as much as you can. Focus on filling any gaps that may have formed over long haul or vanity downsizing. So those two specifically, long haul, there's likely to be something going on. Vanity, you likely have to have quite like a difference to where there could be, you're going to need to supplement basically. Okay, or you're going to need to like restore yourself. Again, you're fine. Your body is built to do that, but you need to consider afterwards and like actually build back up your nutrition stores. Okay. People don't consider it at all. I've seen it so many times. They just don't. It's a big no for me. 5, exercise. Consider starting a more challenging program as it will be more stimulating to the body and brain. You are likely healthier and you will be able to do more within maintenance. And it helps tremendously with dopamine and serotonin balance. So exercise is your best friend. It's very, very helpful. Of course, within a reasonable limit, blah, blah, blah. Do it for the brain effects. Do it for the brain health. It's so helpful. I started that more hardcore workout program where it's more advanced, and it really helped with the anhedonia. It's stimulating. It's something to complain about. You can complain about how sore you are all the time. It really helps. And I know people are probably like, what? Like, that sounds stupid. I'm telling you though, for the anhedonia, you feel something again. It makes you feel something to be sore, you know, and to actually like be doing something new and challenging at the gym. I think it really helps a lot. So I would really suggest that. That's why I wrote it in all caps. Okay. Now here's the next one. This is where we talk about some more stuff. 6, find a safe obsession. Gross horror movies, romance novels with lots of drama, knitting, remote control cars, whatever works. As a TR survivor, your brain is wired for repetitious, obsessive activities. You don't want it to be something like shopping. Be intentional. Choose what to obsess over. You have a choice. You do. I don't want to hear, I don't, my brain just takes me wherever. Bullshit. Remember, the whole thing of the TR is that you're in control the whole time. So you can control what you obsess over. If you like something, you can coach it. You know, for me, you guys know it's freaking Taylor Swift music. I'm obsessed. Totally obsessed. Love it. Totally safe obsession. The horror movies. Love them. Totally fine. Totally helps me. You know? So just make sure that it is a safe obsession. And they exist. Like if you're obsessed with painting by numbers, there's not going to be anything bad that happens to you because you want to do painting by numbers every day. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Be intentional. Choose what to obsess over. Stop trying to stop obsessing. As your dopamine response regulates, you will get more balance. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it in the moment. You know? You'll go back to normal. But when you're feeling anhedonia, you likely will have like this limited amount of stuff that makes you feel something. So just do it. Just watch the damn horror movie. You know, I watched like The Last of Us and zombies and all that stuff. Like, and it reminded me of like the past when I played the game. There's like nostalgia to it. Like it's gonna be different for everybody, but it worked for me. It helped me to watch it and to like see zombies attack people, you know? So I'm just saying, it didn't hurt me to watch the show. It didn't hurt me to watch like horror movies and stuff. Like, just figure out what works for you, basically. Whatever works. Whatever's safe, not toxic, not, like I said, you don't want it to be shopping or something like that. That's kind of common. But you want it to be, it can be cringe. Just let it be cringe. It can be Disney. We talked about that. It could be Disney. Totally could be Disney. Totally Gucci. No issue. Okay, let's continue. Lastly, be more social. So do the opposite of locking in. Lock out. Get out more. Talking to other people helps you deal with this numbness. Hear about their lives, so hear about other people's lives. Spend time and catch up with people. And spending time with family and best friends is especially grounding as they know you very well and they know your journey. So people who have been with you through the journey, they're going to be very helpful to spend time with, and like family and stuff like that. It was very healing to, you know, have my lesbian auntie era and be spending time with my cousin and her baby and stuff, and just seeing that innocence and that, you know, she's just so cute, you know. It's really grounding. Like I feel like doing things like that is really helpful when you have anhedonia, because it's like kids don't feel that way. They're so like excited about everything, you know, and it's like she's bringing me like one of the toys that the dogs have, or like being around like dogs or something. Like they're so excited to see you. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of, that quality, it's helpful to be around when you're feeling this way. It almost makes you emotional, but because I'm just so grateful that I had that time with my cousin and her baby, and she has like 2 big lab dogs and stuff. And it makes me feel so grateful for that, because like being around the dogs and the baby and stuff, it's like, it's really helpful when you feel that way. And then, you know, spending time talking on the phone with close friends, family time, all that stuff. Like, it's very grounding. You kind of need that. And yeah, it's just really good. So you want to do that stuff a lot. Obviously, like going out and having fun is great too, but I do think there is something in particular about the groundedness of being around people who have been with you through the journey, or being, like I said, spending time with like dogs and kids that don't have even anything close to Anhedonia. You know, like they're on such a different wavelength. It can help you. And it kind of reduces its grip, I guess is the best way I could say it. So, yeah, that helps. So get a life, basically. Get a life. Okay, lastly, value the effort you put in. Your efforts matter. Do not throw away your progress. Protect it. Think about the sacrifices you made to get here. Do not ever return to the TR. Never. And I mean it. I mean never. Do not ever return to it out of boredom. That is incredibly stupid. So that is one of the dumbest things you could ever do in your entire life. It is so dumb to ever even consider it. Don't you dare. And like I wrote here, just be fucking bored or get a life. Basically. Those two things are better. Be bored or get a life. The TR is not an option. Period. But with that, you guys, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you guys again soon. I hope this helps. I hope this video reaches who needs it. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.